Why socialism is on the rise. In the wake of Zoran Mamdani's win in the Democratic primary for mayor of New York, there's been a glut of commentary from people who didn't see it coming, attempting to understand what is happening. According to this view, indoctrinated at school and university and let down by parents who failed to prepare them for the real world, millennials and Gen Z just won't wake up until they face the reality of Mamdani's insane policies, like government-run grocery stores and rent freezes. Others still take a dimmer view of the next generation, proclaiming that Mamdani won because of vibes. The centre-left, on the other hand, consoles itself with the notion that he was up against a terrible candidate in Andrew Cuomo. All of these people are right, and all of them are wrong. It's true that Mamdani appears to have the common touch, but many people who do are unable to produce the stunning victory he achieved. It's true that young people do not understand the history of socialism and have little idea of just how terrible the consequences of Mamdani's policies will be. It's true that vibes were a powerful force in this election, but politics has always been about vibes. The elections of Barack Obama and President Trump were about vibes too. And yes, it's true that Cuomo is a terrible candidate who's facing allegations of sexual harassment as well as scrutiny for his disastrous decisions during the pandemic. But that doesn't explain the popularity of Mamdani, only the unpopularity of Andrew Cuomo. The reality is that none of these variables on their own are sufficient to explain the rising popularity of socialism in many Western countries, or, more specifically, many large Western cities. Every comedian has to learn this lesson the hard way. You may have great jokes, but people will only laugh if they agree with the premise of those jokes. The fact that for at least a decade our schools and universities have acted as woke madrasas is sufficient to prime young people for receptivity to socialism. But it does not explain why the ideas are landing as hard as they are. So, why is socialism becoming popular? I tried to remind my conservative friends of this at the end of my speech at the first ARC conference when I said, "Many of you here are conservatives. I'm not. I look terrible in tweed. That's why I identify as politically non-binary. But I can tell you conservatives something. You will never get young people to want to conserve a society and an economy that is not working for them. We will not overcome woke nihilism as long as young people are locked out of the housing market, unable to pair up, unable to have kids, unable to plan for the future." I know many people of my generation and younger who, it could be said, waste lots of money on coffees, eating out, and so on, while paying rent instead of saving up for their own place. The problem is, though, that saving £200 a month towards a deposit on your first property makes very little sense when the price of that property grows by tens of thousands every year. This sense that the things you actually want deep down are speeding away from you on a train you'll never catch is the real driving force behind the popularity of politicians like Mamdani. Young people are open to socialist demagogues not because they've sat down and done the sums on their policies. They're open to them because they're desperate and see no way out. This, by the way, is always how radical and unworkable ideas become popular. The rise of communism and fascism in the late 19th and early 20th centuries was the direct result of the excesses of the Industrial Revolution. During that period, human wealth shot up, but so did wealth inequality, with the people at the top accumulating most of the gains. By the middle of the 19th century, the top 1% of people in Britain owned 50 to 60% of the wealth. Sound familiar? The rise of socialist politicians and the popularity of left-wing commentators like Gary's Economics are not the problem, they are a symptom. And until the real problems are addressed, it's Mamdani's all the way down.
Déjenme dibujarles una imagen mental de cómo es vivir en un país en crecimiento con la macro ordenada. Un país en crecimiento es que un aumento salarial signifique mejorar tu capacidad de compra, no tratar de igualar la inflación. Es poder tomar un crédito hipotecario y ser dueño, en vez de pagar un alquiler toda la vida. Es saber que si te dedicás y laburás, mañana vas a vivir mejor que hoy. Algo que es obvio en el resto del mundo, pero para los argentinos se había vuelto una quimera. Es que cuanto más trabajes, mejor te va a ir, pero que te pueda alcanzar con un trabajo de tiempo completo para vivir, sin la necesidad de tener 2, 3 o 4 trabajos, ni la asistencia del Estado. Ni la asistencia del Estado, porque si para llegar a fin de mes necesitabas del Estado, no estabas bien, estabas mal, porque eso no era sostenible. O es más, es como de repente darse el lujo de cerrar tu negocio para tomarte unos días de vacaciones. Es eliminar la neblina que nos angustia y por primera vez en décadas podemos mirar hacia adelante, podemos mirar hacia el futuro. En definitiva, un país que crece es un país que nos permite convertirnos en dueños de nuestra propia vida, en arquitectos de nuestro propio destino, donde podemos ejercer nuestra libertad en búsqueda de la felicidad. Este es el derecho inalienable más básico de los hombres, poder tener la chance de ser felices.
¡Viva la libertad, carajo!